What's the first thing you associate with gaming? You'll probably think of something fun, something challenging, maybe something chill. And you would be right. If you want to go a little deeper, you might see it as an escape from reality, a mental exercise, or a way to live in a different world for a while. If you want to get pessimistic, you could say it's an addiction, a waste of time, a distortion of reality. Well, you could have any interpretation. I've always liked games. I used to play them to have fun after a hard day, and yeah, pretty often to escape reality too. There was a time when I was so addicted it became my favorite thing to do. I would spend hours and hours every day just playing mobile games. Gaming was by far the best part of my day. I would play as much as I could, every chance I had. But we grow up, and nowadays, even though I still like games, they're definitely not as big of a deal to me anymore. They had a huge impact on my life, no doubt. I learned a lot, lived a lot through them, but I'm past that phase. Here's the thing. The point of this video isn't to talk about games in general, or what I think about them. This is something else. This is more of a letter to the entire community of a specific game, where I'll finally say everything I kept to myself for a long time. And this game is, of course, Hill Climb Racing 2. Yeah, this game. The one I played for 8 years. The one that at some point made me kind of famous. The one that still affects my life in some ways. The one that somehow became part of my story. And the funny part is, to this day, I can't explain in one short sentence why it was my favorite game for a whole 8 years. There were too many reasons, too many moments, too much to consider, to the point where I would need a whole night just to say it all. And even then I would still forget something, which just shows how important a simple little racing game can actually be for someone. You all know how linked I was to Hill Climb Racing 2. It's hard to disassociate me from this game if you knew me on the internet back then. I built some sort of identity around it, and a bit of that still remains to this day, even after I deleted my account and started focusing on a bunch of other stuff lately. And that's fair. I told you all how it was my favorite game. It went through my childhood, my adolescence, and now adulthood. What's funny is I had a kind of a different relationship with the game during each of those phases. During childhood, for example, I was so close-minded that when HCR2 launched in late 2016, I simply didn't download it. I thought the sequel couldn't be better than the first game. It took me 5 months to finally give it a chance. The result? Just a few days after downloading it, it had already become my favorite game. And that shows how ignorance can be one of the biggest problems someone can have. At that time, unfortunately, I had a lot of restrictions. I was young, I had no access to social media at all, and could only play games for 2 hours a day. But I was so addicted to HCR2 that I would often spend way more of my time focused on it. When I wasn't playing, I was probably creating artworks about it. During early adolescence, I was already pretty good at the game, and very into it, to the point where I started getting amazing records and creating YouTube content. This eventually led me to get known worldwide as that Hill Climb Racing 2 pro player and YouTuber. I was so addicted that the game became one of the most important parts of my life at the time. What's crazy is thinking I did all that without even interacting with the community. I had no social media after all. That forced me to face some tough challenges, like having to discover world record tunes completely alone, while other players were constantly sharing info and helping each other out. Also, you know I'm not that rich guy. Most of what I did was using a pretty bad phone. Things could have been so different if I had a console or a PC too. But at least I managed to get some crazy fun and probably even more meaningful stuff with just my device. Crazy to think about it. The older I got, the less restricted I became, and that was good for me. Once I started hanging out with the community, a lot changed. It's kind of funny to say this, but that felt like discovering a new world. Actually, it was discovering a new world. I started having worldwide interactions, talking with fans, laughing with new friends. Sometimes it hurts to think about how much I missed out on forgetting that type of interaction so late. Again, things could have been so different if I was there earlier. I gotta mention one clone I've always been with. SN clone. Those people are so chill. I wouldn't have achieved many of the things I did without their help. They'd been with me since my very early days. I had some really fun moments with them, and looking back makes me happy. Not everything was good though. Every community has its bad side. And even if the hill climb racing community isn't necessarily that bad, we can deny that most of them are too young and don't always behave that well. Anyway, I already said that the older I got, the more I started focusing on other stuff and leaving games aside. I feel like it happened kinda late though. I only started realizing how addicted I was when I was 16. By 17, gaming wasn't a priority anymore. And now at 18, I could easily go a whole year without playing anything and be totally fine with it. And as little as I play now, hill climb racing chill still means a lot to me. Sure, it was more magical before, but it will always have its place in my heart, cause of all the amazing stuff I experienced with it. Now let's talk about hill climb racing 2 itself, and how I usually play it. And man, do I even know where to begin. This game has so many modes, so many vehicles, and so many features, it's hard to wrap your head around everything. You already know how I barely play today, and when I do, it's just for fun. That's why this gets crazy. I can kinda separate how I used to play it from how I play it now, because my gameplay styles were changing almost completely all the time. In the very early days, I used to play for fun. Then it became about competition. Then it became a task. Then I started balancing everything. And now, I got rid of any sort of chore. I only play when I want and how I want. And honestly, in my opinion, playing a game like that's so much better. Sometimes when I'm bored, I just pick a random adventure map with a random car, turn the music on and play without worrying about anything. Other times I'll go to the track editor, create the skeleton of a map, and when I'm about to polish it, I put on a podcast, learning something in the background while finishing my map. It's cool to use your game as a complement to something else you're doing, without overloading your mind. Besides all that, I've got my favorite game modes, and I think it's worth sharing them and why they're my favorites. If you asked the old Carlos what his favorite mode was, he would surely say time attack. Not anymore though. Some of you might even know what my favorite game mode is today. And yeah, you guessed it, track editor. This mode is basically a creative hub. I just really enjoy creating my own version of races on the maps we all know. So many possibilities, tests and styles. This mode is so my favorite that so far, I've created about 250 maps. Yeah, I know, that's a lot, maybe a bit too much. I've made simple tracks, multiple path tracks, tournament tracks, hard as hell tracks, memory ones, trials, downhills, uphills, remakes of existing maps, beta tracks, almost every type you can imagine. As much as I love this game mode, I can't deny it pisses me off so bad that it hasn't received any major updates since launch. That's frustrating, but yeah, it's still my favorite. Leaving the editor mode aside, I would say my next favorite mode is adventure, which is kinda ironic. The guy that once didn't like this mode and only focused on fast tracks now has this slow mode as his second favorite. Nowadays I just prefer chill gameplay over adrenaline. Driving through those long maps, trying to reach the farthest distance is just fun. And it's in this mode that the whole "there's something to improve" mindset really kicks in. Time attacks is still an honorable mention. Even though it's not my favorite anymore, I still got love for it. The thrill of pushing a run to the limit, shaving off those tiny milliseconds, mastering a map like the back of your hand, creating a technique that's faster than the one everyone's using, that was so cool. I remember one of the most satisfying feelings I've ever had was getting a world record in that mode. Sure, the game mode got pretty broken over the years, it's also kinda dead now, and most time attack players quit, especially after Mastery and Nitro. But I get why some people still enjoy it. It's definitely a mode I'll always remember. You know what else I think it's worth mentioning? Some specific vehicles and features that were really important to me, or that I just really like. When it comes to vehicles, I can't leave sports car, motocross, super diesel, supercar and muscle car behind. Sports car was by far the most important vehicle to me, and one of my favorites too. It's the one I put some of my biggest efforts into and where I had the most fun with. It was where I applied my own techniques and skills, and I'm so proud of the history I made with it. Motocross was another one I really enjoyed, especially around 2018 and before. Creating techniques with it when it wasn't popular was super fun. Super Diesel and Supercar were also pretty important back in the day. Those were the ones I used to get most of my world records, and where I had the most player rivalries. Incredible moments, by the way. Muscle Car, on the other hand, is a vehicle I didn't have many big achievements with. But I gotta say I really love it. I see it as the best all-rounder in the game. It does incredible stuff. It swims, it has powerful parts, a very advantageous chassis, and more. It just feels like the vehicle with the most advantages overall. And beyond all that, it's just so fun to drive. Surely one of the cars I enjoy the most. I definitely have a lot of funny stories to tell from my experience with hill climb racing too. Over these 8 years, I've had my fair share of hilarious moments, some pretty wild stuff. I might feel a bit weird admitting this, but back in the very early days, I used to hack this game. I was just a young, greedy kid who wanted everything faster, so I had a bunch of hacked accounts, not just in HCR2, but in a bunch of games. My biggest problem back then was that I had very limited internet access, and grinding the game offline was basically impossible. That phase didn't last long though. By late 2017, I had already stopped hacking and created a proper legit account. One thing's for sure, as time went by, I got more and more obsessed with this game. I swear, I must have downloaded it over 100 times, not just for myself. Back when I was still in middle school, pretty much all my friends heard about this game because of me. I even downloaded it on people's phones without them asking. Heck, I've had dreams with HCR2, and not just one or two, a bunch of them actually. There's one that's worth sharing. It happened when I was creating this ridiculously hard map called Parkour. I spent a whole day designing it, then another whole day trying to beat it so I could publish it. No success. That night I dreamed about it. Same map, same moves, same ridiculous jumps, and in the dream I finally beat it and published. Then I woke up. I was pissed. But here's the crazy part. Later that same day, in real life, I actually beat it. I can say my dream came true. Another funny moment worth mentioning is from November 12 to 18, 2023. Somehow I managed to play this game for a total of 40 hours in a single week. That's by far the most I've played in such a short time. Mainly because I was grinding Muscle Car in Cuptown and got kinda addicted to it. Sure, some people out there play probably even more, but for my standards, that was way too much. Okay, so what would you guys consider an achievement? Maybe something memorable you did, something that earned you some recognition, Well, I've done some crazy stuff in hill climb racing too. But today I'm only talking about the ones that were the most important to me. And honestly, I don't even know where to begin again. Maybe going chronologically would be the easiest way. The first thing I would consider a big achievement in this game happened back in 2018, when I got recognized worldwide for the first time. That was the year I got my first all-vehicle world records and started competing on a global level. Odd thing is, I don't even remember what my first world record was. Time flies so fast I completely forgot. But I would guess it was probably with Super Diesel using the good old setup. Back when world record setups, wings, start boost and jump shocks were by far the most used combo and pretty easy to get, unlike today. I believe the moment I held the most all-vehicle world records at once was somewhere between 2019 and 2020. I don't remember the exact number, but I know I conquered dozens and dozens of records. I was one of the first, if not the first, to start using superbike wheelie techniques. That alone gave me tons of records. Besides that, I was one of the best Super Diesel and Supercar players in the world at the time. The only time I clearly remember how many records I held at once was in late 2020. I had 25 in total. And yeah, back then, that made me the player with the highest number of all-vehicle world records at once. Another thing I'm really proud of is the total number of records I managed to get overall. Again, I don't know the exact number, but it was easily over 100. Maybe even past 200 if you count tied records and the ones I beat myself multiple times. Switching topics to YouTube for a moment, around that same time, on my old channel, some of my videos reached numbers I honestly couldn't believe. The most famous one was that called 10 Secrets in HCR2, and it got over 200,000 views, which was a big deal for a channel with about 10,000 subscribers. But if I had to pick just 3 things from my entire history with this game that I would call my greatest achievements, they would be these. First, making sports car famous. When people talk about what I did in this game, they'll often say I was the sports car legend. I was the first player to prove this car had real potential, getting a bunch of world records with it. While most people were focused on superbike, supercar and super diesel, I was out there holding 10 all-vehicle records with sports car. And yeah, I gotta give credit to Castaway Will and Nadrobel for being the first to actually take this car seriously. Second would be becoming famous for my time attack world records in general. Even though sports car was where I made the biggest impact, I actually got world records with almost every single vehicle that had one available at the time. Hill climber, dune buggy, chopper, super diesel, rotator, formula, hot rod, CCEV, superbike, supercar. I was known for being an all-rounder. That's what made a lot of people consider me one of the top 3 players in the game back then. Some even called me the best. And third, creating a somewhat unique YouTube channel. Like it or not, my obsession with this game made me start a channel, and it actually became pretty well known. Not because of my world records, but because of some weird and creative videos I made along the way. Most of my videos had nothing to do with my world records actually, but people still enjoyed them. I wasn't always proud of my content, but I built a cool history I'm glad happened. Even if I had to delete it later, the memories stay. One of the best moments in a game is when you get lucky, or unlucky. I'm pretty sure you've already been happy when you won a race against your opponent by just 0.001 seconds. And I'm also pretty sure you got mad when you lost a public event run because your time ran out just a few seconds before finishing. I've had all of those too. But this video is about moments way bigger or weirder than that for me. To start off, I think we should talk about what I used to do best: world records. Every competitive player will get lucky and unlucky runs from time to time, but there are 5 records I made in the past that I think are worth mentioning. Living on the Edge, a map where I got the all-vehicle world record in just 10 minutes. You know what 10 minutes is? Just to give you an idea, to get an average world record back then, at least on the maps I played, I would usually grind for hours every day and finally get it in about 2 or 3 days. 10 minutes is insanely fast. I got really lucky there, and the record was actually good. It lasted until mastery times. On the rocks. The all-vehicle world record I once set there was probably my most famous. Why? Because it was my longest standing world record. It lasted about 4 whole years. Now, I did grind 5 days to get this record, one of the records I tried for the longest, but the main thing here is how long it stood. For example, Far Far Away was another map I grinded for 5 days and got the all-vehicle world record, but it didn't last nearly as long as on the rocks. And to think, even if the all-vehicle record eventually got beaten, my old run is still the specific vehicle world record, even after Chopper got its masteries. This shows how dead the competition has become these days. Muscle Car was my lucky vehicle. There are 3 records I got with it that I consider very lucky. First, Front Window, a map where I got the world record while playing cups. This is such a rare, almost impossible achievement. The chances of getting a world record in a cup while casually grinding for points and chests is so low I don't think you could find 5 people who've ever done that. Now, I'm pretty sure the main reason I managed to do that was because Nitro was already in the game and the competition was kinda dead. That takes some points off this moment, but still. Second, You Shall Not Jump, a world record I got on my first try. I am sure this one's even rarer. Not only was I not going for a world record, but I was also using a random setup, just playing the daily challenge with no expectations at all. That's wild. My vehicle just moved perfectly by pure chance. When I checked the leaderboards, there it was, a world record. And get this, I did not use Nitro or Mastery, and the record is still unbeaten today, years later. Third, Cup Town, with Muscle Car of course. You might even say, Carlos, I know you had a good run, but didn't you grind this map for hours and hours? Yes, back in 2023, but the world record I actually got happened months after I stopped grinding it, in 2024. After watching Zoro's video, I got curious and wanted to try again. I beat the record on my very first try again, by 2 meters, which means a lot on that map. Enough about world records. Remember my old account? That account went through so many problems. I remember my YouTube channel getting suspended once in 2019. Why? I had no idea, because I was 12 years old. Yep, 12. That means I started uploading videos when I was 10. And I think it's actually illegal to have a YouTube channel if you're under 13. So where's the lucky part? When my channel got suspended, I somehow got it back a few days later. Probably because it happened in the exact month I turned 13. Look, I am not sure if that's what happened, but from what I remember and from what makes sense, that was it. In hill climb racing 2 itself, I had problems too. I got flagged twice and both were mistakes. Got my account back a few days later both times, but those were tense moments. I don't know if they could have banned me for having an account when I was under 13. Probably not, but I've got a new account now and don't have to worry about that anymore. And I saved the saddest one for last. This one's not about accounts or world records. It's about hard work. Floor is Ice. It was supposed to be my hardest map, One of the most unique ones I ever planned, and definitely one of the ones I put the most effort into. That map was basically the opposite of Ceiling is Lava, as the name suggests. And while Ceiling is Lava became my most famous hard map, Floor is Ice vanished into nothing. I lost it for a stupid reason. I was about to verify it, but my VIP expired, so I couldn't keep working on it unless I paid for VIP again. I planned to renew it later, but meanwhile I had to uninstall and reinstall the game for some reason I don't remember. What I didn't know was that uninstalling it deletes all your unpublished maps. The game saves literally everything else, but not the tracks you're building. I lost hours of work in one of my most unique maps ever. Floor's Ice was insanely hard original and surely the map I spent the longest time trying to make and verify it. Just to see it disappear like that. I'm a very creative guy. Tell me, who else would think about putting Gloomvale in a fighting game? I don't think many people did. But that's just one of the many crazy Hill Climb Racing 2 related things I went out of my way to do over the years, especially when I was younger. Once again, I think going chronologically is the way to go. And since we're doing that, we actually start around 2016, before Hill Climb Racing 2 was even released. As a kid, I loved drawing and it was one of my favorite things to do. And there was this one notebook where I decided to create my own version of Hill Climb Racing. I used to draw my own vehicles, reimagined ones, weird ones, and all kinds of stuff. Later, when HCR2 came out, I started mixing ideas from both games. That notebook became such a mess. I ended up calling it the Hill Climb Racing 3 notebook. I loved drawing those. Actually, not long after, I made another notebook just for my own Hill Climb Racing 3. But this one was a little more organized. Instead of making vehicles and their upgrades, I focused on creating paints for the cars from the first notebook. And looking back, I came up with some pretty creative stuff here. Fast forward to 2017, we get to my paper maps era. That was when I started drawing my own Hill Climb Racing 2 tracks. Way before the track editor existed. And I had so much fun with those. I even played with my cousins when we were kids. Those things are gems to me now. I created totally unique locations too, like this plain environment I made up. It would be so cool if something like that existed in the actual game. As time went by, I started drawing less. But I kept going till the Overspill Fun Rig days. And believe it or not, I made about 100 of these. What's even crazier? I remade all of them in the track editor when it finally came out. The remakes aren't that accurate. Not only does the track editor have a lot of limitations, I also wasn't very good at copying paper into the game, but still. That was easily one of the hardest projects I've ever done in this game. In the meantime, I would go for even more ambitious kinds of art, especially considering how young I was. I made cardboard versions of the vehicles, most of them around 2018 and 2020. It was so hard to build those with zero experience. They actually looked pretty good as decorations. Something weird is that I used to sneak Hill Climb Racing into my school projects. Yeah, check out this Hill Climb Racing 3 project I made for school. Wow. And this musical project too. Well, again. There were a bunch more, but I lost most of them. Sadly, or gladly. And you thought it would stop there? Nah, let me introduce you to Gloomvale in a fighting game. Yeah, this one's wild. Had no clue how to make it work at first. I spent days searching for a way to pull it off. The result might not been great, but hey, it kinda worked. The PC and the game I used aren't in great shape, but the fact that I can still play it is kinda cool. Around that same time, I made some more polished drawings too. full-page designs of paints for vehicles from the game, with much more detail. It's kind of funny that some of those came directly from the notebooks I mentioned earlier. I was completely obsessed with creating my own versions of paints. And even though I haven't done much creative stuff related to the game lately, I gotta say some of my last projects were the ones I loved the most. Like those Hill Climb Racing Chill music remixes I made. I was starting to realize that music is my biggest passion. Remixing songs from my favorite game was one of the coolest ways to begin that. And as you can see, I also made remixes of the maps themselves in digital art form. I didn't make a lot, just 4 of them, but I put so much time and effort into them. If you ask me what some of the best feelings in life are, I'll definitely say one of them is being recognized by the creator of something you're a big fan of. And Fingersoft, the developers of Hill Climb Racing 2, have already shown me a level of consideration I honestly couldn't believe. It's so cool knowing they just don't see me but actually appreciate what I do. My first real interaction with the developers happened in 2019. Fingersoft hosted a giveaway on X called Finger Fan Friday, where people could share artworks about the game for a chance to win a Hill Climb Racing 2 hat. Since I had already made a bunch of creative stuff about the game at the time, I showed off 3 of my cardboard vehicles. Specifically these 3 ones, which were actually the first ones I'd ever built. To my surprise, I won one of the giveaways. I was insanely happy. I mean, there was no way I would ever get a hat from my favorite game straight from the developers, right? And well, turns out there really was no way. My hat ended up getting lost during shipping. The distance from Finland to Brazil isn't exactly short after all. But honestly, I'm pretty sure the fact that I was still under 13 at the time, technically making my entry illegal, had something to do with it. But that was just the beginning. Little did I know they would comment on 2 videos from my old channel. The first time they did that was in 2020, in a video where I showed off some of my fan art. They commented saying that they liked my work, and that meant the world to me. Oddly enough, that specific video somehow survived. It's literally the only video from my old channel I still have access to. I used to delete everything after I posted, but I accidentally found this one in my files. The second time was in a video I posted in late 2023, about Roadfinger, that forgotten game that blew up among Hill Climb Racing fans around 2019. This time, what they commented wasn't just a compliment, they actually revealed something. Round Zero, the company that published Roadfinger, was actually Fingersoft's publishing arm, and that they later reworked Roadfinger's mechanics into HCR2's track editor. That was a wild comment, a hidden fact dropped in one of my videos. Surreal stuff. And it didn't stop there. After that, even though it wasn't direct interaction, they started featuring me inside the game several times, whether in featured challenges or community showcase. I've been in featured challenges about 15 times so far. Being featured that many times in an official game mode, even when the challenges themselves are easy and simple, still means so much to me. I honestly don't know why they picked me so often. I don't know if it's random, if there's some specific person who chooses those, but I'm grateful either way. And the coolest part? It was really my account they used, my old one. Because when I played my own records, both names would appear in yellow. That's sick, right? And fun fact, I don't even remember making any of those challenges myself, which makes me think they didn't just grab a random race I did, they actually went in and created those challenges themselves. Community Showcase was even more remarkable to me. My tracks were featured there about 15 times as well, which is even crazier. Because here I think they really handpicked the maps. And I gotta be honest, having your own map featured in the game for people from all over the world to play is an unbelievable feeling. My tracks are like my kids. Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating a little, but I still have a lot of love for them. It's my favorite game mode after all, and I truly appreciated every single time they picked one of my maps. My favorite one they ever used was Adventure World. That map was a recreation of my first ever paper track for the game, the one I've recreated the most, the one I value the most. Again, you have no idea how valuable all these interactions were to me. We've talked a lot about my past with Hill Climb Racing 2, the good and remarkable moments. But the bad sides are part of it all too. The game, the memories, and myself. When we take a step back, we realize not every achievement had a healthy story behind. Not every feature we liked was always a good thing, and not every valuable lesson I learned came from good people. And that's okay. First, let's talk about the problems in HCR2, since this whole series revolves around the game. I'm grateful to the developers and appreciate a lot of the good stuff they've done, but if we want a better game, we need to point out what's wrong and suggest how to fix it. If anyone asked what's the biggest issue in the game is right now, most would probably say it's how pay-to-win it became. Hill Climb Racing 2 has insane, borderline abusive prices for both real money and offers in the game. If you wanna make decent progress, you'll either grind for years, waste hours watching ads and doing daily tasks, or pay ridiculous amounts for stuff that should have been way more accessible. The game throws a bunch of offers at you every single day. Every new vehicle is stuck behind a paywall, and most features take forever to unlock unless you pay. I get it, money moves the world, but the focus should be on building a fair, fun, addictive game first, right? Profit should come naturally when people actually feel like playing and recommending it. Another big issue is how the developers manage the game. Instead of fixing glitches, banning hackers, or updating outdated modes, no shade to the track editor, they just keep adding new vehicles, parts, and paints. The community gives plenty of suggestions, but most of the time nothing happens. It's frustrating, because it really shouldn't be that hard. The solution is already there. Listen to player feedback, focus on fixing real problems first, and then bring in new mechanics and features we actually need. Now about the community. Every group has its flaws. I never had many personal issues, maybe because I'm not that active or don't take stuff too seriously, but a lot of people say the community is toxic and immature. My main issue, as I mentioned before, is how young most players are. It's a mobile racing game after all, so it naturally attracts a lot of kids. And with that comes a lot of childish behavior. On YouTube, for example, you don't even have to try hard to find clickbait and vague videos. It's tough to find a clear solution for this. But I think it starts with us, the older and more experienced players. We could be better examples and more mindful of the influence we have. The developers could help too by creating more accessible, moderated spaces, servers, groups, or communities with clear rules and some encouragement for people to act with basic common sense. Now talking about myself, which should be the most important part for me. I can clearly see things I did that weren't that good. Playing this game too much was one of my biggest mistakes in the past. I was addicted, had no self-control, and spent most of my time either playing it or obsessing over stuff related to it. And like anything in excess, it's harmful. I developed creativity, patience, persistence, but at the same time I barely touched grass, solved real problems, or connected with real people. I'm glad I learned from it and now I'm in a much better place. Everything has two sides, the good and the bad. Something that once gave you great times and made you feel alive can also be the same thing that messed you up. Realizing flaws from the past is already a big step, but what matters is learning from them and moving on. Hill Climb Racing 2 was my favorite game for a long time. A game that deeply influenced my late childhood and early teenage years. I accidentally became kind of famous for a while because of my skills and the content I made about it. I've got so many memories, so many good moments, bad moments, everything. The old account, this one, the adrenaline of setting a world record, the frustration of failing, the surreal feeling of posting a successful video, the lessons from uploading something that flopped, vehicles, tracks, techniques, online friends, clans, close people, and to think it all started out of nowhere. I had insane restrictions and personal problems. 10-year-old Carlos could never imagine where I would be today. And maybe 18-year-old Carlos has no idea where he's going either. It could be good, bad, whatever. Sometimes things just happen without explanation, and I love that. I gotta say, I'm really grateful for everything, even the bad moments. Today I feel so much better overall. Playing games is great, as long as it's balanced and not just a way to escape reality. And that's what truly helped me grow. Real life is a game too, but a way more complex one. Finishing such an important video is tough. I still don't know what's the best way to end this. I had to rewrite this script 3 times, learned and rediscovered a lot in the process, realized how much I've changed over the years, and it feels like a massive weight is finally off my shoulders. It doesn't matter if it's too late, if the vast majority of people who knew me back then aren't even playing anymore and won't ever see this video. What matters is I had to make it. This video is first and foremost for me, and for anyone who wanted to watch it.